Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Jamie and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll show you how I built my new mobile workbench slash outfeed table. To start off with, I doubled up some CLS timbers for the legs, gluing them and clamping them. I then ran them over the jointer just to get rid of that groove mainly that's down the centre of them, and square them up with a table saw. I also brought them down to the same thickness, using the thickness of there. Here I'm just cutting the legs to length. I'm cutting the rails to length here because I'm going to be making a frame, and I'm going to be attaching the frame with pocket holes, and I use a lot of pocket holes on this project. I use 2.5-inch pocket hole screws to assemble the frame.
Okay, so I got a slight issue. The screws I've just shot out the other side. A stupid mistake, I didn't check the settings on my pocket hole jig. I got away with that with re-drilling the pocket holes at the correct depth.
That's a beefy midsection right there. Any visible fixings, I made sure they were spaced apart equally. I also assembled the two frames together with 100mm screws. These screws you could just drive straight in, you don't need to pilot hold them.
Okay, so I've just put these supports in here, and this square measures 46 by 46 centimeters, and the feet of the table saw are going to sit on each corner.
Now the frame is really sturdy, but just to give myself that peace of mind and to prevent sagging over time, I added a middle support piece along with a caster wheel as well.
Set up right gently, okay? Well, not. Whoa. Just a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Go on. I'm going. Well done.
Just you do that bit.
Well done. High five. Do you want another go?
No, just one go.
Just can't get the bloody staff. I drilled pilot holes and assembled the MDF top with 32mm drywall screws. I just want to give a shout out to my buddy Jason for giving me a hand lifting the saw. I'm reinforcing the centre part here where the two sections come together, because with it being mobile, this part will be where there will be some flex if it's not properly reinforced. I messed up here because even though I clamped the two frames together, I didn't actually check for square on this part, and it's thrown the top out so it's not completely square. Here I'm installing the final caster wheel. I used a total of 8 caster wheels on this, 4 with brakes, and all had a rating of 55 kilos, which will be plenty strong enough for this bench and what I build on it.
I've actually only got 2 washers left, so I can only use 2.
I just tap that piece into place before attaching with more 2.5-inch pocket screws.
Because this leg is outward facing, I don't want to see that groove, so I'm just going to trim this piece down on the table saw. I've doubled up a lot of the framework on the Outfeed table because with it being on casters, I'm going to be moving it about a lot and I don't want it to flex over time. So it looks overkill, but I've got enough timber to do it, so yeah, why not?
I picked this piece of MDF up from the free section at my local B&Q. It was almost the perfect size for the top, but I had to use it on the bottom. It's always worthwhile checking the free section, but if you do take out from it, then you know, just put some pocket change in charity box at the till. I'd be lying if I said this piece fitted first time. Always remember to put your mask on after you've made the cut, because that is when the dust is flying about. Later on I regret putting all these screws in because I had to take them back out. The adjustability of the height on this saw is really easy to use. I'm just adding some offcuts of CLS timber here. These are going to be supports for the bottom shelf and just something for me to attach the screws to. I assembled the bottom shelf using 32mm drywall screws as well.
I'm sick of working on the floor.
I added these strips just to keep the saw in place, just in case I happen to pull the saw instead of the workbench by mistake. So this was my original plan for the workbench, super simple, just something functional, but I figured as soon as I'm going to be hopefully using it for a long time, I might as well just do all the upgrades for it now. And it was at this point where I regretted putting all those screws in earlier. Hashtag afterthought.
Okay, considering my options here, I should be able to just take a few screws out and this frame should just lift out in one, minus the 4 outside pieces. Because I'm considering just taking that out, cutting about 20mm, 18-20mm off the height of the legs. Then I don't have to add a second piece of MDF underneath the saw. I should be able to do it on my own then. I shouldn't be able to ask anybody else to come down and give me a hand. Hey. Okay, so I was a little bit nervous making that cut and it's actually turned out really well. Yeah, kept it on the line. So only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more to do.
I used a mixture of heavy things and clamps to keep the workbench tops in place, and they worked out really well. I then trimmed the workbench top down to rough size with the circular saw before coming back with a flush trim bit in the router. I sanded away the burn marks with 60 grit sandpaper in the random orbit sander, and I attached the 2 workbenches together with 50mm screws around the edges.
Okay, so I've just marked up where I want the T-track to go. I've gone in 80mm from each side. That looks good. I've also not going to bother with the centerpiece because I think it's not needed. It's a bit too cluttered. So my next point of call is to get it marked out, double, triple check my measurements, and then just go for it. Can't worry about it too much. If I mess it up, I'll just flip the top over and try it again. But hopefully I won't have to do that. I've got a 5/8 straight bit that I'm going to use in the retro router. Okay, so the first pass went really well. I'm going to lower the route a bit next to get the depth of the T-track, and then I'm going to move the fence across slightly to get the width of the T-track and finish off the cut that way, along with
the second pass for the depth. That went really well. The last cut, once moving the fence across, I could do that in one pass. I didn't need to do it in two because there was very little material to cut away. I only had to move the fence across about 3 or 4 mil. Got a nice fit, just got to square off the edges now and do the other ones.
I wasn't actually sure if I needed to score the MDF before using the chisels, but I figured it's good practice and a good habit to maintain.
So my phone actually ran out of storage while I was routing out the second channel for the T-track. So you join me now and I've started installing the T-track. I had a couple of issues while routing them out. One of them, well, I took my eye off where I was plunging here and that resulted in a little error there. Secondly, I didn't have a long enough usable straight edge for this length here. My spirit level was just too short, so I kind of veered off a little bit here, so it's not the tightest of fits in this little bit here, but the rest of it's fine, and I think it'd be barely noticeable anyway, so now I can install the rest of this T-track.
As you can see there, that's where I veered off slightly with the router.
I attached the T-track with 30mm screws. And I attached the workbench tops to the frames using 50mm screws, and then I broke over the edges hand sanding with 120 grit.
So that's the T-track installed. Next I'm going to install some shelves. I've first got to put this filler piece in, so to bring this middle leg out level with the same thickness as the two end ones. I'm also going to put a panel in there, and then I'm going to run a couple of shelves across so I can put my finishes in.
The panels were attached with 1-inch pocket screws. I made some shelves by ripping some stud-work timber in half, and I got to say the fence on this table saw is incredibly good. There's no unintentional door wedges with this fence. These were attached with 1-inch pocket screws, there were 2 in each side. I got the spacings I wanted on the left hand side for the shelves, and then the right hand side I just mirrored what was on the left. Next I come over to marking out where I wanted the vise to go.
actually really nervous about this bit. Do I really want a vise? My concern is, by cutting some material out of this, if it will weaken the frame. I can always reinforce it afterwards, or I could just recut these two pieces, but I really don't want to do that. I can't think of another way right now to attach the vise without cutting some material away, so I'm just going to go for it, and then afterwards it'll probably come to me how I should have done it. So my weapon of choice, pull saw.
A longer jigsaw blade would have been helpful here, but I managed to get through that second rail there with the help of the multi-tool.
So I found out the easy way. What I should have done is just take these two pieces out. They are screwed together, so they are aligned, and I should have just run them over a table saw.
Do you mean miter saw? Because that would have been easier. I attached the vise to the bench using M8 bolts and washers. Using the socket set in the drill really made quick work of attaching the bolts. It was just going to take far too long using the wrench.
So the vise isn't sitting an equal distance below the workbench. It's off by like a couple of mil or something, but it is noticeable. So I'm just going to shim it with a plastic shim and then retighten it.
I had some offcut of oak which were the perfect size for the jaw pads. I clamped the vise together and pilot holed where the vise holes were. I then countersunk the heads using a 16mm brad point bit, and this was so the bolt heads will sit below the surface of the faceplate. The bolts were too long, so I just used a cutting disc in the angle grinder there and I just trimmed them down. With the vise installed, I could call this project finished. A few of you have commented in my previous videos recommending I put my workbench on wheels, and I gotta say, it's a great idea. Thank you for your input. The entire workbench is super rigid, there's no flex in it whatsoever, it's incredibly easy to move around, and I'm not worried about the workbench sagging over time after I added the two caster wheels underneath. I'm really happy I took the time now to do the upgrades for the workbench, and hopefully it made for a better video for you guys. The T-track is going to be really useful and it will give me additional clamping capacity. I have got some hold down clamps on order as well. Installing the shelves is another feature I like, because if you guys are like me, then flat surfaces just accumulate stuff, and being able to clear my workspace of the tools I'm using but also have them at arm's reach should be a helpful feature. Nothing has fallen off them yet, so I'm not looking at attaching any lips to the shelves just yet. I'm looking forward to being able to use a vise, because previously I would just clamp my workpiece to the workbench with a couple of clamps, so having a dedicated tool for the job will be a nice change. I've also got the capacity to upgrade the workbench in the future should I need to. If you're still around, as it was quite a long video and you enjoyed it, maybe found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up, and I'd properly appreciate it if you tap that subscribe button, ring the little notification bell. If you want to watch one of my other videos, I'll have one lined up here. Lastly, if you want to check out me on my other social medias, I'm available at Jamie Makes It. And yeah guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers.
Do I really want a vise? Yeah, fuck it.